My name is Jenny, and I'm a wife and mom raising 2 kids. But I used to live a more glamorous life as a TV reporter. I was on the nightly news interviewing pop stars and politicians. So when I said goodbye to TV and hello to motherhood, I suddenly discovered what we moms are up against. We live in a world that tells us to be rich and famous, thin and successful. You know, almost nobody says,
"Oh, hey, you're a mom? That's fabulous." But you are fabulous, and I'm here to tell you why.
It's the Channelmom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
I have unanswered prayers.
Welcome back to the Channelmom Show, where I have unanswered prayers too, by the way, JJ, where we are celebrating you, Mom. We really are. We just want you to understand that we get it, that we get what your life is like. We get the difficulties, we get the struggles, we get the worries and concerns and pains and woes and so on, but we also get the joys, and we just want to motivate you and encourage you and equip you to be an even better mom. We are right here on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. If you have a question for our guest today, the number is 303-297-1510. We urge you to call and talk to Debora. She's a blast. First, before we get back to Debora, who has some wonderful suggestions on how to reduce stress in your heart, body, and mind, and that is, you can call her about questions regarding that as well. I'm going to admit something to you. I am now an avid Therapon user, and I do believe in it. I don't like to pitch just any old thing because moms are listening to me, and they are trusting me, and they don't want me just to be a walking commercial, you know. But I do like this particular product. I'm 47, so I do struggle to try to keep looking young. You know that, Shell. You're not quite there with me, but you're getting there, you know.
You look great.
Thank you, sweetie. I pay her to say that. Here is why I like Therapon Skin Health and why I trust the science behind it. It just so happens that the doctor who founded Therapon discovered a unique formula for aging skin when he treated severe burn patients. For years, Dr. James Beckman helped burn victims to renew their damaged skin. And it was through this process he discovered an effective formula for treating aging skin. It is called Theraderm Skin Renewal, a scientific combination of ingredients formulated to renew damaged aging skin. And as a Channel Mom sponsor, Therapon is right now inviting our listeners to visit channelmom.com and get a very big discount on that product. So just go to channelmom.com. The Therapon ad's right there. You can click on it, and you can get your discount. Welcome back, Debora.
Thank you.
Yeah, did you identify with my hoping to make myself look younger?
Absolutely. I think that's a part of the reason why I wrote my book that's coming out in March called More Beauty, Less Beast.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we all need that on some days. I think, gosh, I don't look very beautiful today. But by my behavior, isn't that the point of that book?
Yes, well, God made us to appreciate beauty, and I think it's just, I mean, we love beauty around us, and I think it's just natural for us to want beauty with us.
That's right.
And to be beautiful as well.
That's right, that's right. My father actually wrote a book about that. It's just true. We're just bred for beauty. That is just inherent, that we seek it. So we women shouldn't feel bad about wanting to be pretty until we're 80 years old, you know?
No, not at all.
All righty. You've got some tips, and I want to get to them because I think moms could really benefit from them today. We had Lauren Miller last week, who is an expert in stress relief, but I think you've got some kind of unique tips. I'd like you to give maybe one of each for physical stress relief and mental stress relief that moms could do just very quickly, even if they're just sitting in the car. You've got some funny names, too. One of them has to do with the butt, I believe.
Well, I'll hit the mind first as far as the spirit goes. I think decomstressing is a term that I coined that I really like because it's a matter of doing a lot of different things to de-stress, to unload our stress. And one of the things we can do is to try to physically remove ourselves from the stress source. That's something that when I'm at work and I'm just feeling like my blood pressure is about to melt my earrings, I know it's time for me to put some space between me and that stressor. And so I'll either go lock myself in the bathroom for a few minutes and take some deep cleansing breaths and lift my burden up. And then just kind of, or I'll go do some prayer walks around the parking lot, which is what I do at home as well. But that is something we need to do, is to just physically put a little space, remove ourselves from that stress source, air out our brains.
Right.
And then another thing is to add ourselves to our daily to-do list. And I think that's something that we neglect to do because we as women are so caring and put ourselves out for everyone around us and our families, and we're doing for them, and we're making sure everyone's taken care of, but we often forget about ourselves. And I think if we could just schedule ourselves, I pencil my name right there on my to-do list, the optimum would be 15 minutes twice a day to just revive and regroup and regenerate. And we have to be sure we don't take no for an answer when all those other, quote, important activities try to crowd us out, because we're important too.
Sure. And yeah, you cannot serve others. I mean, it's just true. Even Jesus went up the mountain to spend a little time by himself.
Sure. And in my book, I actually mention a lot of different scripture that shows that Jesus did that very thing, and that he told us to do that very thing too. Right. And so I think it's not something that we need to feel guilty about when we do it. It's something we need to make sure that we do for self-preservation.
Right. That's why I made that point about walking up the mountain, because we shouldn't have to feel guilty about it. And does everything, it could be a foot soak, it could be going to get ourselves a coffee, or it could be exercising, right? You're an avid tennis player. Does that include exercise if that makes us feel better to refresh?
Oh, absolutely. I think the place that I worship the most is on the tennis court. I know that sounds funny, but, being out in the beautiful creation and the weather and getting physical exercise and hitting the crappy out of that little ball, that just really helps everything, What can I say?
Yeah, I understand that. You had also a great piece of advice. Treasure one thing a day, because I think sometimes at the end of the day, I particularly, and I think Shell has talked about this, where we're just irritated by the end of the day because we just feel so overwhelmed and we feel like we've had no time for ourselves, and the kids want this and want that, and we just think, I just want to go to bed. Treasure one thing a day. Tell people about that.
Yes. Well, that's something that I came up with when I kept feeling guilty when all the moms around me would say, you have to live in the moment and treasure every moment. And, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I can't. It's impossible. And so women sometimes just roll in guilt, and so I'm the world's worst at that. So I was trying to find some compromise that I could live with, and it was I came away with one, if I could pick one moment out of the day for each child that I could, like Mary did when Jesus was born, treasure it, store it, and treasure it in my heart. Then that, and I jot them down too, so I have them on paper. So I keep a little journal of those. And so you can go back and you can actually have those moments, and they're wonderful that way.
Oh, I like that. Just go get yourself a pretty notebook and just have one thing a day that you wrote down. Oh, that's fabulous.
You can always find something good about your kids, even though someday you want to wring their pumpkin little necks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to the subject of preteen boys, and actually teenage boys. I'm in a heartache over this thing, because my boy, who's now 12 going on 13, has been the apple of my eye. So is my daughter, but he was the apple of my eye, and wanted to snuggle and hug me and kiss me and spend time with me and so on and so forth. And that's slowly eking away, where pretty much the other day when I drove him to the school, he asked me to please stop at a certain place. So I'm like, I said, so you're embarrassed about Mom? He said, yeah, kind of. I'm like, great. So here's my question. How do we handle that? Because you explained to me the same thing kind of happened with you and your Matthew. What's going on there, and how do moms handle that without smothering them, but also maintaining a good relationship with them?
Well, I hear you very much there, sister, and I know I had the same problem with my son. When he was about 12, but prior to that, he was my little buddy, and he loved to do everything with me, and we were just the best friends. And then all of a sudden, he hit that age where he was so conscious of being cool, and I call it a divorce. I felt that he divorced me at that time, and it was a grieving process for me. It was very difficult. That whole year between his 12th and 13th years, just very hard to let go. And I know that it is a natural state of affairs, especially with boys, that they have to grow up, and we have to cut the apron strings at some point. But, it was during those years, again, if you can try to find a little humor in the situation, even though it's difficult. I coined one of my Coty near facts of science that I sprinkle throughout my book.
Yes.
I call it DAM, D-A-M, that dreaded teenage malady, disorder of adolescent memory. And that was how they can just somehow forget. They forget everything convenient to them to forget. Yeah. And they end up with this selective memory where they forget everything you tell them to do, and then they forget all the history that you've had and all the wonderful times, and suddenly they're just, they're little islands out there that you don't recognize anymore. And it is so difficult, and I think it's something that each mom has to deal with separately, because different boys even do it different ways, and girls sometimes do. Seems like it's a little bit later in the developmental process for girls, though. With boys, it seems to come in early teenage years.
Right.
But, it is tough. I feel for you, and all you can do is just hang in there and keep loving on them. Even though they're very unlovable, if you can every day try to wrap your arms around them, even though they don't respond back, and it feels like you're hugging a totem pole or a pine tree,
right.
Let them know that you're still there for them, you're on their side, and you love them. And they will go away with, as they approach their teens and late teens and 20s, knowing that they have you in their corner, and that even though you don't feel as close to them as they used to, they're very proud of you being their mom. And mine's now 29 years old, and he loves me to death in his own way. It's his own terms. It's not my terms, and I have to come to grips with that it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, and it must happen then because, you certainly see, and here on Mile High Sports, we talk about these guys all the time, but you certainly see NFL players and NBA players always thanking their mamas when they're in their 20s.
Exactly.
So something clicks back in at that point. And the other thing I find that you said they forget things. The thing that I find is they forget everything you've done for them all day, all week, all month. And I have this really bad habit. I'm sure it's exactly the wrong thing to do because it has to do with pride, is I'll sit there and I'll list it at the end of the day. Have you forgotten what I've done for you? You know what I mean? and that really cannot be a fabulous approach, too. I mean, I can't imagine that that's a good thing. Any other, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, dear. We have something called the Channel Mom Tip for Busy Moms. And in the next minute or two, I want you to be thinking about it because I was going to give mine. It was a little shopping tip. And I can still throw it out there. But I would like you to think of a tip that you can share with moms that you think is a really good takeaway tip that they could walk home with today and be helped. So we're going to play the little music here in a minute. We're going to wait one more minute. I have one more question. So be thinking about your tip of the day for moms.
Okay.
So let's just touch one more time on the laughter thing. How can moms insert laughter in their lives? You have these Coty Near Facts of Science, and you do make me laugh in your book, and I'm going to read the whole thing now because you've just made me realize you've got great advice. How can moms connect with laughter? What do they do in a given day when things are not going well to make themselves reconnect with the humor of it?
Well, I think you have to look for it, and that's the thing we forget. We're waiting it to slap us between the eyes because we're so busy. But if we look for it, one of my Coty Near Facts of Science is called BOOP, B-O-O-P, and I call that the boiling oatmeal overflow phenomenon. And I consider women like pots of oatmeal. At the beginning of the day, we just simmer these little manageable bubbles of stress that rise to the surface, and then they just pop. But as the day progresses, the heat escalates, and that oatmeal boils higher and wilder and meaner until it overflows and spoils everything around it with this nasty, sticky mess.
Right.
And I think we women are very much like that, and the key is we have to realize when it's time to remove the pot from the burner.
Right. That's right. All righty, we're going to play our tip of the day music, Deborah, and you're going to be on the spot here in a minute, and you can give our moms a tip.
Okay.
Hey, Mom. Feeling too busy and a bit overwhelmed? Would you like a shortcut to raising great kids? Check out our Channel Mom's tips for busy moms.
All right, she is Debora Coty. She did write Too Blessed to Be Stressed, among other wonderful books. Deborah, you're on the spot. What could you say to moms today that they could walk away, get out of the car, whatever, after they shut off the radio, that they can use to make their lives a little bit better today?
Well, I think one of our big stressors for many, many women I speak to, including myself, is that negative self-talk that we don't even realize we're doing. That droning Eeyore voice down inside that just kind of, makes everything so hopeless feeling. And there is a little key that has helped me so much. It's a magical 3-letter word that you tack on to the end of every negative thought. And it miraculously transforms it from the I can't perspective into I can with a little more time. And that word is yet. And the difference is just subtle but absolutely profound. I can't make this work yet. I'm just not smart enough to figure this out yet. With one word, you just added instant hope. And I think that is a really, really good key that we can do every day.
Yeah, I'm just going to force myself to do that one. I really am. I love it. Yet. Every mom out there, remember that. That's a fabulous word. Deborah, will you come back sometime? You were such a great guest.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. Have a wonderful weekend, dear.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You are listening to the Channel Mom Show. I'm going to give you the other tip of the day, by the way. Babies R Us and Toys R Us is having their great trade-in event from August 26th through September 18th. You can bring in your used baby gear and get 25% off of a new item if you bring that used item in. Used items that are being accepted are car seat, stroller, travel systems, high chair, play yard, bassinet, cribs. I think I'm getting all this. Go to faithfulprovisions.com because they have all the information there. We love Kelly Hancock, who runs that website. You can find out more there. Thanks so much for listening to the Channel Mom Show, where we are celebrating you, Mom, on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. You can also watch us on channelmom.com or visit us at facebook.com/channelmom. I'd love to have you talk to me and tell me what you'd like to see on the show. I'm your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt. You can join us next week. We're going to be talking about toxic friends. 84% of us have toxic friends. So join us next week to talk about that. And we will also have some mind-blowing information on child trafficking. God bless you, moms. Have a great week.